Imagine you are a CIA case officer in Moscow during the height of the Cold War, walking through Gorky Park on a freezing Tuesday night. You are carrying a package worth billions of dollars, but the KGB is watching your every move, their 7th Directorate surveillance teams trailing you in unmarked cars. You need to pass this package to your agent, a high-ranking Soviet general, but you cannot meet him, you cannot shake his hand, and you cannot even look at him. If you are seen together, he will be executed for treason, and you will be expelled from the country, sparking an international diplomatic incident. So, how do you move a physical object from point A to point B in a city where privacy does not exist, and every shadow has eyes? You use the most fundamental, dangerous, and adrenaline-pumping technique in the spy manual, the dead drop. A dead drop is a location, a hiding place where one person leaves a package for another to retrieve later, eliminating the need for a direct meeting. It sounds simple, but in the world of high-stakes espionage, the drop is a complex military operation requiring precision timing and nerves of steel. Welcome to the Shadow Dossier, where today we declassify the mechanics of the invisible handoff and the gadgets that made it possible. This is the story of hollow rocks, magnetic boxes, dead rats, and the tragic price paid when a drop goes wrong. To execute a perfect dead drop, you first need a site, a location that is public enough to access without suspicion, but private enough to hide an action. It could be a loose brick in a wall, a hollow space behind a radiator in an apartment hallway, or a rusted tin can lying in a ditch. The location must be soft, meaning natural and unremarkable. If a spy stops to fiddle with a tree in a park, he might attract attention. Therefore, the drop must be instant, a brush pass where the item is dropped while walking, or a slide where a magnetic box is attached to a metal post in 1 second. But how does the agent know there is something to pick up? You cannot just text him, you need a signal site, completely separate from the drop site. A signal site is a visual code placed in the city, a chalk mark on a specific mailbox, a piece of tape on a lamppost, or a lowered window blind. For example, CIA officer Aldrich Ames would signal his KGB handlers by making a horizontal chalk mark on a mailbox at the corner of 37th and R Streets in Washington. If the Russians saw the mark, they knew a package was waiting for them at a pre-arranged dead drop location, perhaps miles away in the suburbs. The tradecraft requires a time window. The package cannot sit there forever because a child might find it, or a street sweeper might throw it away. The agent has a specific window, perhaps 2 hours on a Tuesday night, to retrieve the payload before the operation is aborted and the team clears the site. The payload itself is rarely a stack of loose papers. It is concealed inside a concealment device, a masterpiece of engineering from the CIA's Office of Technical Service. The most famous is the hollow rock, a fake stone made of rubber or plaster, painted to match the local geology perfectly, with a hollow cavity inside. But they got more creative, dropping a dead rat onto the side of the road, which was actually a Velcro-sealed container doused in hot sauce to keep stray cats away. Imagine a KGB agent driving by, stopping for 3 seconds to pick up a piece of roadkill, and driving off with the schematics for a fighter jet. The most dramatic dead drop in history involves the CIA agent Martha Peterson and her asset Alexander Ogorodnik, codenamed Trigon. Trigon was a Soviet diplomat who hated the system. He was providing the US with cables that revealed the widening split between the USSR and China. Martha Peterson was the first female case officer sent to Moscow, a deliberate choice because the KGB sexism led them to believe women were just secretaries. She operated in the shadows using a SRAC, short-range agent communication device, hidden in her purse to listen for KGB surveillance radio frequencies. On the night of July 15, 1977, Peterson headed to the Krasnolozhsky Bridge across the Moscow River to fill a dead drop for Trigon. She was carrying a hollow rock containing miniature cameras, gold rubles, and a poison pill that Ogorodnik had specifically requested in case of capture. She walked into the tower of the bridge, verified she was alone, and pushed the rock into a small alcove in the stonework, a classic load. But as she turned to leave, the shadows came alive. KGB Alpha Group soldiers grabbed her, throwing her into a black van in a violent ambush. The KGB had already caught Trigon weeks earlier. They had tortured him into giving up the drop site, but they kept it active to catch his American handler. However, Trigon had won the final battle. During his interrogation, he asked for his own pen to write a confession. The pen was a CIA-issued suicide device. He bit down on the cap, released a capsule of cyanide, and died instantly before he could name any other agents. Martha Peterson was interrogated, declared persona non grata, and expelled from the Soviet Union, leaving behind the empty rock on the bridge. As technology advanced, the physical dead drop evolved into something even more elusive, the electronic dead drop. In 2006, Russian state television broadcast footage of British spies walking past a rock in a Moscow park. This wasn't a container. It was a high-tech computer disguised as a rock, packed with a processor, a battery, and a long-range Bluetooth transmitter. A British diplomat would walk past the rock, and his PDA would automatically upload classified files to the rock's hard drive via a secure wireless connection. Later, a Russian double agent would walk past the same rock, and his device would download the files. All without stopping, all without a physical touch. This spy rock scandal was mocked at first, but it proved that the dead drop had moved from the physical realm into the digital spectrum. Today, spies use Wi-Fi dead drops, securing a router in a coffee shop or a public library to act as a digital mailbox for encrypted messages. Or they use the drafts folder trick. Two agents share a login for a Gmail account, writing emails to each other but never sending them, just saving them in drafts. Since the email is never sent across the internet, it is harder for the NSA to intercept. It is a digital version of hiding a note in a hollow tree. But despite the digital revolution, the old ways are still the best. A physical SD card buried in the dirt cannot be hacked by a firewall. Robert Hanssen, the FBI traitor, used a dead drop under a wooden footbridge in Foxstone Park, Virginia, for 20 years until the day he was caught. On February 18, 2001, the FBI watched as he placed a garbage bag full of secrets under the bridge and taped a piece of white tape on the signpost. When the FBI SWAT team swarmed him, he famously asked, "What took you so long?" Proving that every drop site eventually becomes a trap. The dead drop is a symbol of the spy's loneliness. It is a connection to a world they serve but can never touch. A lifeline made of chalk marks and hollow stones. It requires a level of discipline that most humans do not possess. The ability to walk past a fortune in gold or secrets and treat it like trash. Because in the Shadow War, if you look at the package for 1 second too long, if you hesitate, the game is over. This concludes the file on dead drops, the silent arteries of the intelligence world that keep the information flowing while the city sleeps. We have covered the gadgets, the defectors, and the drops, but now we must return to the darker side of history, to the coups and the regime changes. Next time, we open the file on the operation that overthrew democracy in Iran and set the stage for the hostage crisis we just discussed in the Argo file. It involves a flamboyant CIA agent named Kermit Roosevelt, a suitcase full of cash, and a plot to hire mobsters to stage a riot in Tehran.